In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.
Welcome back to another edition of the Daily Memphian's Memphis Grizzlies podcast. This is Drew Hill, joined as always by columnist Chris Herrington. The Grizzlies lose 2 games, I believe, since we last spoke. One, a very disappointing loss to the Washington Wizards over the weekend. A game that it felt like the Grizzlies maybe trying to get away with one, and it didn't work out that way. And then another game last night on Monday in Oklahoma City, a game that was not so surprising of a result. And I want to sort of take both games, obviously very different games, Chris, this week, and go through each of them and sort of talk about some of the performers and the different things that happened. And I feel like we have to start with Washington. Not only does it make chronological sense, it also was a game that it felt like the Grizzlies should have won and maybe shifted the energy a little bit. I feel like, they got wins against Minnesota. They got a win in Los Angeles. Obviously this comes after Ja tweaks the ankle.
Right.
He started as questionable. He moved to doubtful. I'm not sure exactly why that was the case. I wish we would have gotten an answer to that.
So I think,
but we did not.
I think I might have, I sort of tried to poke around on that a little bit because I was wondering about that too. My sense is that the original questionable designation was more of like a stopgap. We're not quite sure where it is yet kind of thing. Like, that was like a questionable pending a deeper look at it kind of thing. And so I think it was, I don't think it's very serious, but I think it was always more serious than the questionable designation implied is the sense I have. As we're talking today, they have not put out an injury report for tonight's game, which will be against Utah. I'll be surprised if he plays that game, but I don't know. I'd be surprised if he's not also back in the very near future.
The game against Washington felt like a game that I wrote this in the game story, and then I ended up having to delete it essentially because of the result. But even though the Grizzlies were missing 8-9 guys, it still felt like they could put more consequential basketball players on the court than the Washington Wizards.
Yeah.
Even with the roster that was so depleted, it felt like the Grizzlies had more real NBA players out there than the Washington Wizards.
Well, the Wizards
didn't win the game.
The Wizards are, 5-22. They've won 3 of their last 10, which is not good, but in the context of a 5-22 record is like pretty good. They did have.
Man, they got to beat those new NBA tanking rules.
Right.
3 wins.
They did have maybe, arguably the all-time captain of the Grizz Killers team, and CJ McCollum out there.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, he just does that. Obviously they were up, 20 in the first half of that game? Is that right? Mm-hmm. That is, I don't like to use words like inexcusable, unforgivable, like whatever. It's a basketball game. That's a game you should win. Right? Sometimes you lose games you should win, but that was a game they should win. That's probably the worst loss of the season, to be up that much at home against the Wizards and lose that game. I'll confess that is, I think, the only Grizzlies game this season I did not watch. We had family movie night with my son and daughter that night, and we hit the road the next morning. So I didn't have a chance to watch that one. Maybe that was a Christmas gift to me to miss that one.
Yeah, no, I think it was. Honestly, it was a game that didn't have a whole lot of juice to it.
Right.
The entire way through.
Which is odd because to me what's disappointing is there's this thing this season, once they got off to sort of the bad start, they're out 3-2, right? And then things went haywire for a couple weeks. And since things went haywire, it's been this thing of like trying to climb to the top of the hill, right? And that was the game where they were about to step their foot on the top of the hill. That's the game where you get to 500. You've had these 2 road wins. You win this game, which everyone thinks you're going to win. You're going to finally get to 500 for the first time since early in the season. And now you're probably going to go under
gonna
500 again the next
when you
game,
play
but
Oklahoma
you are going to
City.
get to the top of the hill and put your foot on the top of the hill. And just at the moment where you're about to plant your foot on the top of the hill, you're up 20 in the first half, your foot is about to hit the ground at the top of the hill, you get shoved back down. And now you got to start over and try to climb back up. And this whole season has sort of felt that way. Like you're waiting.
It's Samson and the Rock.
Yeah. You're waiting to get your lineup together. You're waiting to get to 500. You're creeping up on a thing, and then you can never get to the thing, and that's the way the whole season's.
Sisyphus.
Yeah, Sisyphus is the boulder, trying to push the boulder to the top of
the hill,
and you can never get there. So it's been a very Sisyphean, I think that's right, a very Sisyphean season.
Yeah, and it was even that with the game itself, because, and I'll get to the aftermath of the game, which I thought was a little interesting. But you had Jaren playing really well in the game.
He was great for 2.5 games. It was funny. He gets Western Conference Player of the Week, and like most Grizzlies fans are mad at him, and then he gets Western Conference Player of the Week, but he was great for 2.5 games.
If you go read our story about him winning Western Conference Player of the Week, and there's not much to it. It's just like, Jaren's won. These were his stats. I did throw in the last quote because I wanted to ask him, and I was thinking about asking him about it as the game was going on because he was playing so well in the first half. About like, hey, do you feel like you found your rhythm? Like your offensive game all of a sudden has come back in a big way. And he essentially was like, yeah, I'm scoring more. That one hurts to let it go. And he took full responsibility for the fact that the Grizzlies lost the game. And a large part of it was on his shoulders because he was so dominant and he got in foul trouble, which is a recurring thing. I mean, I do wonder. People keep asking, like, is this – I remember 2 years ago we were talking about, will he grow out of this? Will he, maybe 3 years ago, will he grow out of this? Will things change? And, like, he did have seasons where the foul numbers took a dip, but for whatever reason, it does feel like – I don't know. This is anecdotal. I don't have the stats in front of me.
I am pulling up the stats right
now. I'd love to see if he is fouling more, how much more he's fouling.
So here's Jaren Jackson's. I'm doing this per 100 possessions. So you account for differences in playing time, differences in pace, the whole thing. Per 100 possessions, and I'm going to throw out the year where he played 11 games coming off an injury. So his fouls per 100 possessions every year. From rookie year, throwing out the one not real season. 7.2, 6.7, 6.1, 6.0, 5.4. This is a steady downward trend. And then last year, it plateaued, 5.4 again. That's still a manageable number, right? And now this season, it's jumped back up to 6.3. So it's not as bad as it was early in his career, but it's much worse than it's been the last 2 or 3. And so that downward trajectory he was on with fouling has reversed, and it's gone back up this season.
That coupled with the block percentage
being down,
being the lowest of his career. I mean, I
think that's right. Certainly it was. It's picked back up a little bit recently, but I think that's right. I will say, because another game that's happened since the last time we did a pod was the game at Minnesota I was at. And it's not just the scoring. He was fantastic in that game. He was fantastic in the game before against the Clippers. In that Minnesota game, in the Clippers game, it was the thing where there were a lot of possessions where he's being guarded by Harden. He's been guarded by Kawhi. He had some cool post-up stuff against those guys. In the Wolves game, every second on the floor, he was dealing with Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert for the most part. So not only was it the scoring, and he had a double-digit rebounding game, I think, that night too, it was just the general physicality on both ends of the floor that he was getting it and giving it back, right? That was one of the best games I've ever seen him play in total. Offense, defense, rebounding, passing, physicality, the whole shebang. And so, 2.5 great games, then a really bad second half against the Wizards and a subpar game at best, against the Thunder. I still think the general trend in the last couple of weeks has been a little bit upward with him.
I want to take the Thunder game separately a little bit, but I would say obviously the shots didn't go down. The shots didn't go down for a lot of people.
Right.
He didn't have a turnover in a game against the Thunder. In a game that
did he not?
He didn't have a turnover.
Oh, that's some scorekeeping because there were some turnovers created by them going at him. Maybe they didn't get credited as turnovers, but I rewatched that game this morning. Maybe there's been a
stats correction, but
no, you're right.
No
you're right.
Turnovers,
he is the box score has him with no turnovers.
Means and he was getting swarmed.
He was.
So, like, it wasn't as bad as the box score says, I would say, for Jaren last night. It was not as bad as the box score says. But it was not.
He had 2 steals and a block. This is one of the things I do like is that I think the defensive activity has picked up. And that started before the offense started to come back around. That game where they blew out Portland, he only had 6 points a game, maybe his lowest of the season. But he had 3 steals and 2 blocks, and that was a great team defense game for the Grizzlies. I think since then, I mean, the game against Utah that they lost the next game, not so hot, but like 7 stocks against the Clippers, 4 against Minnesota, 3 again against the Thunder. I do think his defense has started. His defensive activity has been picking up.
When it's a little bit of coach speak, but teams across the league will always say, our defense fuels our offense. Our defense fuels our offense. And you might say that about Jaren, right? The defense will fuel his offense. I almost think it's a little bit of the inverse. Like, because we saw in that Clippers game, like, them getting him the ball early, it's like the old adage that you've brought up on the pod several times. It's like you just let the big guy touch it a couple times, and they might be more involved. It was something we talked about with Zach Edey for a little bit, and it almost applies to Jaren. I felt like it applied to Jaren in those 2 games that he played well.
Well, that Clippers game in particular, it was very noticeable. They went to him early.
Very
intentional. He got like the first 3 shots of the game or something, It
felt very intentional that they did that. So, I don't know. I mean, do we think... Where does Jaren, in terms of momentum towards getting back to the Jaren that people expect, where does he stand right now? Because he was playing well, and then he threw
I think he went through a bad patch, and everyone noted, like, the first time since his rookie year, he's gone 5 straight games without scoring 15 points, right? I think he went through a bad patch, and I think he's come out of that bad patch. And I mean, just won Western Conference Player of the Week, right?
Yeah, he did.
And so I think he's been on a better patch lately. Again, as we record today, we're coming off a subpar night at best against the Thunder and a bad second half against the Wizards, but a great first half and like really big time against the Clippers and the Wolves. The other thing is that he's not alone in this, but he does have a lot of company. He is out there every night.
He is.
Which you can't say about a lot of guys.
No, about 10 guys.
That's right. So he is out there every night. Him and Coward and Wells and some others who have missed very few, if any, games this season, which is not a lot of Grizzlies you can say that about. So I don't know. Like, people always want Jaren to be better, and like there's reason for them to want him to be better. But when I think of the Grizzlies' problems, he's not like top of the list for me.
No. The vibe. So he basically said that the Wizards' loss was on him. He just said, that was on me. I know the coaches and his teammates would say that it's not on him, but a lot of that was on him. I think if he's in that game playing more minutes.
So you were in the locker room. I was not. That came across to me as not only a thing he said, but a thing he felt.
For sure. Yeah. Vibes in the locker room after the Wizards loss, not good. Right. It was very quiet. There was, in addition to the fact that they're playing the Wizards, it was a Saturday game, so the crowd was decent, I thought, relative to other crowds this season.
Right.
But there was not a lot of media there, and so it was pretty quiet in the locker room afterwards anyway. Nobody really wanted to talk about the game. It was, there wasn't a lot of energy. Sometimes the Grizzlies will lose a close game and they'll get in there and like the guys can still like be lighthearted and joke around.
Yeah.
There wasn't any of that. Not after the Wizards game. It felt like they knew that was one we needed. That one really hurt. And so, I mean, after the game, I wrote a feature on...
Isolo seemed mad walking off the court, yes. So I'm sure there were discussions had, before media got into the game.
It was another one of those situations where he took quite a while.
Yeah.
After the game, so you knew that there was... He'd probably let into him a little bit.
Right.
And then after the game, I was waiting to do a feature on Cam Spencer. I mean, game ended at like 9:30. Cam Spencer wasn't into the locker room until 11:15, like 11:20. Like it was forever after the game. Before the game probably ended after 9:30, probably closer to 10. It felt like forever before Cam Spencer came into the locker room. And Jock Landale, really slow, sort of getting together. Santi Aldama, really slow. to leave. It felt like it was a game where everybody was just kind of really defeated and had a tough time swallowing that loss. I ended up talking to Cam Spencer. I wanted to just bring this up because I think it's one of the better features I've done this year. If you haven't read it, you can go read it at the Daily Memphian. He's really become one of the stories, not just of the Grizzlies, but across the league. Like he's been on national podcasts now. I saw Bobby Marks had a story of like the NBA All Value team. He's on that. He's been unbelievable.
He missed the game at Minnesota, personal reasons. Cam Spencer in the month of December, averaging 30 minutes a game. It was off the bench until these last two where he started. And by the way, these last two games, 37 minutes and 35 minutes, which the Grizzlies normally don't do. Cam Spencer in the month of December, 30 minutes a game, 19 points, 7 assists, fewer than 2 turnovers, shooting 57% from the floor, 59% from 3, and 100% from the free throw line. How's that for a shooting split? 57, 59, 100. That's pretty good.
Since we last recorded.
And the 7 assists.
Yeah.
This is something that, and if you watched him a lot in college, you watched him more than me, you're less surprised by this. This is something I wrote about several weeks ago. And I sort of stopped tracking it because this is who he is now. But if you look at the first 9 games of the season roughly, and then the second 9 games of the season, the percentage of baskets he was scoring inside the arc, like more than doubled, zoomed up. His shooting percentage inside the arc, zoomed up. And the amount of assists he was generating off penetration inside the arc, point guard kind of assists, not just throw it ahead or kick it around the perimeter, but that sort of active, dynamic assist, it just changed. I don't know whether just as he started to get regular minutes, he got comfortable, and this was always part of his game. But he really developed into, he's one of the best three-point shooters in the league, but he's developed into an offensive player way beyond that.
Yes. I saw him, so since we last recorded, so the Grizzlies played the Jazz, not this Friday, but the Friday before. And there was a moment before the game, I don't think he'd mind me sharing it now since the story is now out, where Cam Spencer was in the media workroom before the game, and I was walking in, and I was the only one going into the media workroom, and he was walking out, and I was like, "What are you doing in here?" And he had a look on his face. He said, "I have to take a phone call, and I was trying to find somewhere where I could be by myself." And immediately I was like, "Oh no, like that can't be a good thing." And so he played that game against the Jazz. You mentioned the 3-point shooting percentage. He goes 6 for 6 from 3. The first one he points to the sky, and I figured, somebody had probably passed in his family. So I was kind of feeling for the guy. He played unbelievable that game. And then obviously I come to learn later on in the week that his grandmother had passed away. He gets the game off for personal reasons, comes back, immediately plays well again. He's just been so steady for this team. And you mentioned the passing and all of that. I think he still deserves some credit for finding roles that work for some of these players on this team. They have clearly worked towards that this season. And Cam Spencer might be the lead example of that. And it's going to be interesting. Like, we can always play what happens when everybody's healthy game? But we could always play it. We can always play it. We'll never stop
it's
playing
always a theoretical construct because it never happens.
We'll never stop playing it.
Right.
But Cam Spencer sure looks like a very good backup point guard in the NBA to me.
He does. No, I agree. And it's interesting because I got a question in the mailbag. This is a few weeks ago. This is before he exploded in this month. But of what would the rotation be at full strength? And I had him as like the 11th guy only because I couldn't figure out if you're stipulating Ja Morant and Ty Jerome are both playing. Like, are Cam Spencer and all three of those players in the same rotation, and how does that work? Grizzlies may never find that out, right? But I sort of wonder about that, right? Cam Spencer has become sort of what the Grizzlies wanted Ty Jerome to be. And I think Ty Jerome could be that too when he gets healthy. But like he's been not playing, and like Cam Spencer, whatever you would have imagined Ty Jerome would do for this team, at least maybe he's a little bit more dynamic of a pick and roll guy, but Cam Spencer's been pretty good. Whatever you would sort of imagine in your head, this is how Ty Jerome will play. This is the numbers he'll put up. That's what Cam Spencer's doing.
I know. It may be better because that 3-point percentage is going to be
I mean, nobody shoots, you know.
So I would just encourage you to go read the Cam Spencer feature if you haven't. I in trying to find a feature on him, I uncovered an old recruiting profile that he made for himself in high school. And the whole thing isn't included in the piece, but bits and pieces of it are. And it was just, it's unbelievable. It really does sound like a high school kid who's just begging for any college to take him.
Right.
And now he's in the NBA. He and his brother are both sort of emerging at the same time, all as his family's sort of going through this with his grandmother. I mean, it's a tremendous story on the surface, and so I tried to do it some justice. But Cam Spencer also very much still holds a grudge for those teams that didn't. He made that very clear. Like, I wasn't even really pushing him on that.
Right.
He basically said, oh yeah, that letter, like, F them. Like, I don't, like, all those coaches that didn't want me, like, all those teams that didn't want me, like, F them. And so I thought it turned out pretty good. So go check that out. All right, I want to move on to OKC and a few other things. But first, let's take a break for a message from our sponsor.
Want to make a big impact without getting lost in a big system? Join Youth Villages to be a force for families while becoming part of one. Help make positive changes on a national scale, one community at a time. It takes a family to transform lives. Start with yours. Apply now at youthvillages.org/careers.
So the Grizzlies fall to the Thunder last night in a game, I want to say it was competitive late, but I really don't think it was that competitive late. They had a stretch where they made 4 threes in like 2 minutes.
They cut it to 4, middle of the fourth, something like that, and immediately the Thunder hit 2 straight threes and brought it back to 10. But it did get down to 4 at one point in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, because they made 4 threes in like 2 minutes.
And then Thunder responded with their threes.
And then they missed their next 5, and then it was over. So it wasn't all that competitive. And we were talking about this before we started recording.
If you had told me before the game, okay, these are the guys you got missing. You're playing at OKC, who was 13-0 at home,
bad.
And you're going to turn it over 21 times. You're going to turn it over 13 times. I would have guessed the game was less competitive than it actually was, given all of that.
It's because they shot the ball pretty well.
Yeah, you're right. 44% the Grizzlies from 3 in that game.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope 5 of 6.
Yes, although even like he played 21 minutes. I didn't think he was one of the standouts of that game. I thought Cedric Howard was the best player on the floor for the Grizzlies last night. Your thoughts?
The Coward thing is interesting to me. He only played 25 minutes in that game. It wasn't because of fouls. I wonder, and this is strictly me guessing, I've not heard this from anybody. I wonder if they're like cumulatively, because this is the first half of a back-to-back, right? This is a guy, he's an NBA rookie. He's never played an 82-game NBA season. He barely played last year in college. He had the shoulder surgery. I wonder if somewhere in the medical stuff, they're looking at just the total minutes with him and trying to, I don't know if he was on a minutes limit, but I wonder if there was some concern about, okay, we're starting to build up with him. We need to bring it down, because they do stuff like that with players over the course of the season. Because I think if you're just looking at that game, 25 minutes for him, the way he was playing seems like not enough. But I suspect there was some larger thing about keeping his minutes down, would be my guess.
I have a Cedric Howard take. Everybody compares him online to Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
I think he's very comparable to Jalen Williams.
I that's where I thought you were going, and I actually had the thought. I was watching some other OKC game. Maybe this one against Minnesota. They played Minnesota recently. It was that I was watching.
I had that take before the draft.
Yeah,
and I still believe that take.
Well, I was thinking about this watching them play Minnesota recently, And I had a very similar thought to that, and to the point, and I didn't take the effort, but I wondered, what are the physical dimensions like relative to Coward versus Williams in terms of height, in terms of wingspan? I wonder how similar they are, because Williams is another guy who is long and strong and skilled, but is not really explosive. Now, you wouldn't think that with the way he dunked on the Grizzlies last night, but he's not Anthony Edwards, right? Like some people wanted to compare Coward to Anthony Edwards. He just doesn't have that kind of vertical explosiveness. It's much more of like the Kawhi, Jalen Williams, long, strong, good touch. It's more that kind of profile. Coward to me, and I think this will come with time. I mean, he's a rookie. I'm eager for getting to the point with him, which I think will come, where he is more consistently looking for his shot, where he is more consistently getting into the lane and looking for his own offense. Because I think that's coming with him. And I think when it does, he's going to be, if not a first option, at least like a second option on a good team, like that Jalen Williams kind of thing.
I was just curious to look at stats, first 29 games of Jalen Williams versus first 29 games of Cedric Coward. And they're very comparable. I mean, Williams' stats are maybe a little bit ahead, but he did play more minutes. So, like, on a per 36 basis, like, they're close, man, those two players.
He was also probably a little bit more ready coming out of college. Like, he was a smaller college guy, too, but I think he played, and they're age-wise, they're probably about the same. But like, he wasn't injured his whole senior year of college,
But if you're going to go per 36 rebounds, Cedric Coward's going to have an edge. That's honestly been one of his very best traits, is the fact that he rebounds at such a high level. Assists, very similar.
Oh, this is year
Points,
4.
very similar. This is Jalen Williams as a rookie versus Cedric Coward as a rookie, first 29.
This is actually year 4 for Jalen Williams. I thought he was probably a little bit younger than Coward coming into the NBA, but also probably a little bit more experienced in terms of actual college basketball play. Mm-hmm. So it kind of evens out probably.
Yeah, and he played at Santa Clara too, which is different than Eastern Washington. I guess you could say Washington State for Cedric Coward, but he played, 7 games?
Yeah.
Coward hadn't really played at anything close to an NBA level at all before he got here. And for him to be sort of pacing there, I think makes a ton of sense. Also, by the way, the Grizzlies moved up to take Cedric Coward, and one of the teams that they moved up over was the Thunder. Doesn't Cedric Coward just feel like an Oklahoma City?
Well, there was some suggestion that was a team that they were worried about taking him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and Aldama, who also had a huge game against Washington in a loss, 37 points, was another player OKC supposedly had some interest in. Now, he's a little bit of a different player than these dudes that they're throwing out there.
You know who else the Grizzlies allegedly snatched from the Thunder in the draft? Hasheem Thabeet. That was at the time they were worried that the Thunder were going to get him.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Grizzlies were interested in Jalen Williams in that draft.
Instead, the Thunder had to settle for James Harden.
So there's some overlap. Obviously, Thunder in a much different position than the Grizzlies, but it does feel like, I don't know, it feels like Cedric Coward is a Thunder dude, Anything else strike you from rewatching that game?
I was just looking up. Jalen Williams is 1 year younger than Coward as a rookie. But again, like we pointed out, there's difference in their playing stuff. The Christian Koloko stuff, we haven't talked about that. They added him.
I mean, he's in the game in the last 5 minutes of a single-digit game for the Grizzlies.
A scoreless 10 minutes with one rebound for Christian Koloko in his Grizzlies debut.
Hey, no turnovers. No turnovers.
No turnovers.
Not many people.
He had an assist somehow. I'd have to go back and look.
By the way, that was what I was going to say. One more thing on Cedric Coward. Why I thought he was the best player on the floor, not just that he loved the team scoring. He had a lot of assists with no turnovers. Like, that was the key. In a game where the whole team turned the ball over a lot, Cedric Coward didn't turn it over. Okay, onward.
The Koloko thing, I mean, there's different ways. When that signing popped up, and I said this on the radio with our colleague Jeff Calkins yesterday morning, the signing happened before my radio hit and the Brandon Clark news came after. But my first reaction when I saw that signing was, okay, the Brandon Clark thing is going to be out a little bit. Because they could have made they were eligible to do a hardship signing a couple days before, and they just didn't do it. And I think at that point they were like, when we signed Kobe Lufkin, we didn't even play him. This is money that counts against the cap, so let's hold off. And then to make a signing at center and not point guard, to me was suggestive of the Clark thing. And now we find out Clark's going to be out at least 3 weeks, which is a big bummer for Brandon Clark. 1 game and change back and out again. The Koloko thing, is he better than Charles Bassey? I sort of think no. Bassey, I think, is still out there. Obviously, they weren't a big believer in Bassey. They're taking a look at somebody different who's sort of roughly similar. So there's that. I understand that they want to play big, and with Clark and Edey both out, like they didn't have a lot of options. They were obviously worried about minutes. You played Jared Jackson 32, Landale 26. Santi 25, that's not a lot for those second 2 guys. You are in a back-to-back. Yeah. So I understand, you got to play somebody and you want to play big. You don't want to play heavy minutes. I wonder if you're not better, in a different lineup with more Omex Prosper, and playing smaller.
Christian Koloko, I'll say it again, was on the court in a single-digit game with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. They signed him in the morning. He didn't know a single play. He has no idea what's going on.
I'm agreeing with you. I thought even acknowledging all of the factors that led into that, I'm not sure that was the right way to go.
No, that was just dumbfounding to me. But
this was a game, by the way. This is a game. I'm just looking at this box score. They're at OKC. I know OKC's missing guys too, but it's OKC. They're at OKC, and they got Omax Prosper, Gigi Jackson, Christian Koloko, and Jemai Mashak all in the rotation.
Was Koloko the one that undercut Ja?
He was.
And that's
for the Lakers early last season.
That just occurred to me now.
Yes, he was the guy against the Lakers who undercut Ja when he had the first hip injury. So that game last night featured both players who undercut Ja for hip injuries last season, and Christian Koloko and Lou Dort. They were both on the floor last night. Ja Morant was not.
Oh, my. Yeah. So it got competitive late. It wasn't that competitive of a game, I don't think.
No, I agree.
But an expected result. I mean, they were clowning the Grizzlies at halftime. I don't know if you caught. You probably didn't.
I was skipping through all the non-active play stuff.
They were at halftime when the Grizzlies were already down. I don't know what it was. I'm gonna just throw a guess. They were down like 15 or something like that.
Right.
They were doing the halftime sort of analysis, and they had gotten through they went through a segment of why the Thunder are so good in transition or whatever, and it was Isaiah Thomas and Derek Fisher as the analysts, and I forget who the other guy was that was sort of the host, but he asked, "What's the one hope for the Grizzlies?" And Derek Fisher just said, "St. Jude," and Isaiah Thomas said, "They better call Elvis," and I was like, bad jokes. First of all,
you got your obvious Memphis references.
But what are you supposed to say in a game that really did feel like the Grizzlies didn't have much of a chance? So, yeah, they were clowning them a little bit. But, I mean, Grizzlies are missing 9 guys. Not that the margin for victory, or the margin for error, I should say, against the Thunder is so slim for any team, but especially for a team that's missing 8 players. And I'll bring this back up again because it still surprises me. Thunder are headed for a historic season, and they just don't get talked about that much.
14-0 at home. 14-0 at home now. After last night, I mean,
and by the way, I have a top 4 chance in the lottery as of today.
Yes, with that Clippers pick. Yeah, that's something.
Just ridiculous.
I mean, when you were first recounting that halftime discussion, I thought it was reference to the Grizzlies season, not just that game. It continues to be the thing. If you asked me to sum up this Grizzlies season in one sentence, it would be Ja Morant and Zach Edey have played 4 minutes and 30 seconds together. Like, that's the Grizzlies season, Yep. And so it's
and
still,
Jaren hasn't really gotten to where you would expect.
No, he's had a subpar year. He's been worse than he was last year, clearly. But they're still, 13-16 is not great. But when you consider, Ja Morant and Zach Edey played 4 minutes and 30 seconds together, their season ended today. They're playing postseason basketball. And it's this thing where I articulated before the season my expectation. This is after the Ty Jerome, Scottie Pippen injuries. I had higher expectations before those injuries. And my thing was, okay, you're probably a play-in team, but like be a play-in team that gets healthy and improves over the course of the season. And the team you take into the postseason is better than your record. And all of that is still like deeply possible. Like it's funny, like none of these guys are out for the year. Technically, no one's been declared out for the year. The idea that you would have your all 15 guys healthy for postseason basketball, like, is still like the dream you can pursue. And so it's all still there to be had, but it feels like, it's just going to be a tease. It's been a tease for 29 games, and it's going to keep being a tease. And maybe they reach that, but I don't know.
The Grizzlies will take on the Jazz tonight. It's a revenge game. They're 3.5-point favorites on the road. We don't need to talk about that right now. Two quick things. We got to get out of here. Looking at the Christmas slate, Chris, you got Cavs and Knicks, Spurs and Thunder, Mavericks and Warriors, Rockets and Lakers, Timberwolves and Nuggets. I think Spurs and Thunder is easily the best game there, but we'll see who plays.
I'm not watching any of it.
You're not going to watch any of it?
I don't. I
Well,
got
okay, even though
family
you're not
stuff
watching
going on.
it.
I'm not watching TV,
Oh, I'm watching the NFL.
Yeah, I'm not watching any. I'm not watching any
I'll
of the
be
sports.
watching the NFL and
I'll be
some of this
traveling.
basketball.
I'll be cooking. I'll be eating. I'll be doing family stuff. Each to each his own. It would be my preference for the NBA to like be like the schools and like shut down for Christmas, like give us all a break for a few days. That is what I would prefer.
Now the NFL is encroaching on the NBA's holiday too. So I'll be watching both because I like sports, man. My dad is a huge sports fan. He'll be wanting to sit around the TV. Brother-in-law, he loves it. Everybody's going to be wanting to watch games.
I will be, from Christmas morning until the end of Christmas night, I will have been at 3 different relatives' houses in 3 different towns or cities. And so I will not be watching
Well, answer the question, Chris. What's the second most compelling game behind Spurs and Thunder? You got Mavs, Warriors, Rockets, Lakers, Timberwolves, Nuggets, and Cavs, Knicks.
Timberwolves Nuggets. I think that's if you have Anthony Edwards and Jokic out there, 2 of the more exciting guys to watch. Neither of those teams are. I think actually the Spurs are second in the West right now as we speak, but I think the Nuggets probably should be the second team. I think the Wolves have designs on still being a team that can go deep in the playoffs. So I think I would go with that one.
I think that's correct. There's more to life than basketball. You put out your movie list.
I did. So I know you've seen.
The only 2 movies I went and saw in theaters this year. The only 2.
Okay. Well, you chose well with One Battle and Sinners. I was wondering if you'd seen Weapons. Weapons is the other one that a lot of people saw. Weapons on HBO Max now. If you have access to that.
Okay. Yes, I do. So maybe I need to watch that over the holidays. Christmas movie.
Natalie says no. She doesn't like your anti-horror movie, anti-scary movie. There you go. It's not that scary.
So I picked great. Timothée Chalamet's taking over the internet right now. I don't know.
Marty Supreme will open on Christmas Day. S. Will Craig Brewer, Song Sung Blue. So big movie day. Marty Supreme is exhausting in a good way.
You've seen it?
Yeah. I've seen it. I mean, so it was on my year-end list, so I wouldn't put it on there if I hadn't seen it. So
wait, I thought it came out on Christmas, so you got an inside scoop.
Well, yeah, I'm part of a critics group, so I get the advanced screeners at the end of the year. So yeah,
So what did you think? Is it worthwhile?
Oh, 100%. I had it 9th on my year-end list.
Okay.
I wish I had had a chance to see it twice or see it in theater once before putting it on the list, but I didn't have that opportunity. It's, did you ever see Uncut Gems?
Yes.
The Adam Sandler? So it's same director, and it's not as intense as
It's a little grimy.
Yeah. It's not as intense as Uncut Gems, but is similar in that, like, it's pretty intense. It's like this headlong rush of, like, you're following this guy, and he's got schemes, and he's trying schemes, and the schemes may not work out, and maybe he's not exercising the best judgment, but he's really going for it, and you're following him through this path, much like Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems.
Does he have the crown in the actor space right now?
I don't know, man. Leonardo DiCaprio might be the guy.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there you go. You got a movie review. So if you like going to the movies on Christmas, Chris officially you will recommend Marty Supreme.
Yeah, unless you have very unless your tastes are such where you don't like anything uncomfortable on the screen. I know some people like that, in which case, all those Songs Sung Blue has some plot twists too.
Okay. All right. that is going to do it for us this week. We will be back next week. You can always go leave us a review online. Like I said, you can go read the story from the Thunder game last night. Grizzlies will play tonight. Chris will be writing off of that game, so you can go check that out. And you can go read the Cam Spencer feature from earlier in the week, in which he sort of goes off on his haters. So I thought that was a pretty fun one. I hope everybody has a happy holidays and gets to spend some good time with their family this weekend. We'll be back. For Drew and for Chris, we're out of here.